You know, Jake, you're swimming against the current. The metaphor is just, it's so profound, you know. Anyway, here I am on a beautiful Kankakee River, and you wouldn't know it, but growing on this little island over here, and it is an island, there's a river on the other side of that, is one of Illinois' rarest plants. You know, I'm about 2 or 3 feet deep in the river right now. It doesn't get too deep. The current's moving a little bit swift because they just had some rain, but we're going to head over there and see what's going on with Iliamna remota, the Kankakee Globemallow. You make it across okay or what? You know? Yeah, good boy. You did a good job. Well, what's that? Is that Tucrium? Canadense? Lamiaceae, yeah. With a nice verticillast as an inflorescence. Who's hanging out? Oh, one of the invasive Japanese beetles. Anyway, here we go off into the bush. Off into the bush. Let's see what we got. Okay, anyway, so here we are in the bush. This is called being in the bush. And, you know, I used to freak out about stuff like this due to ticks and chiggers and, of course, poison ivy, which is right there. But, you know, eventually I just learned to shut the fuck up and swallow it because, you know, I was kind of being a sissy. Anyway, here's a Campanulastrum americanum. And this is in the Campanulastrum, the bellflower family. And you want to point out here this that 3-lobed stigma. See, that's the female part. That's what receives the pollen. And it's pretty interesting and notable because it's I guess mainly for that style. At least I've always associated with that. It's that style really strikes me. You know, it looks like a lily style. But of course, these aren't related to lilies at all. These are in Campanulaceae, and furthermore, they're a dicot, but they are in the Asterales order. So again, this is a Campanulastrum. I think it used to be Campanula, but they, you know, they've put it in a new genus, maybe created its own new genus here. Campanulastrum americanum. It's, you know, I think its range is all the way from, you know, about the Dakotas to the East Coast. It's a pretty common plant. You'll see it a lot. And it's one of the few native plants that just comes up on its own in, you know, in a lot of people's gardens and yards. You know, as long as they don't have some lame-ass lawn or something taking up most of the space. So, again, anyway, the plant we're looking for is called Iliamna remota. And it's I guess you could call it a fire-dependent plant. It was first discovered, I think, in the late 1800s. And I think it was only known from this island. I think there's another population in northern Indiana. Some people say that oh, it's raining, nice. Some people say that population in Indiana was spread via seed, since it occurs near the train tracks. I don't know how true that is, but regardless, Iliamna is in the family Malvaceae, which a lot of families, including the chocolate family, have been merged into the larger Malvaceae. And that's, I believe, in the last 10 or 20 years. You know, it's all molecular phylogenetics, you know, looking at the DNA and comparing that DNA barcode of one plant to another and realizing that certain plant families were a lot more closely related than we previously thought. So I'm all for the molecular phylogenetics. I think it's fascinating. A buddy of mine, Alan Rockefeller, does molecular phylogenetics on mushrooms and has discovered some really interesting stuff. You know, I mean, I think he was studying Mexican species of mushrooms, and you know, for instance, Psilocybe aztecorum, which was thought to only be known from the mountains around Mexico City, turned out to actually occur in Colorado and Arizona as well. And it's something he found out by actually going to those places, collecting the material, and then doing the DNA work on it. So anyway, let's go see if our target plant is over here. Okay, I also feel it important to point out that, you know, a bunch of people have actively been managing this island. Now, to me, it's weird to call it an island because it's so small. I normally associate the islands with a lot more of raised topography. Oh, what is this? We got an Asteraceae over here. But anyway, you can see they're doing burning, prescribed burning, which is pretty fantastic and important. And it gets rid of all the brush, gets rid of the invasive species. There's a species of honeysuckle, I believe it's Japanese honeysuckle, which can be real bad here. Takes over, again, not from this ecosystem, didn't evolve here, it outcompetes all the natives. And, you know, I think in the 80s, somebody noticed, you know, someone came out here and noticed that this plant, this Iliamna, was, oh shit, what is that? Is that all aphids? It's noticed that these plants the population was declining and kept declining. And it was due to being outcompeted from a non-native species. I think this is that honeysuckle, actually. Balls. Anyway, being outcompeted. And so people stepped in and started managing, opening up the canopy, doing prescribed burns, and it worked wonders. You know, this is a plant that the seeds actually germinate after fire. The seeds germinate in response to heat. And if you're germinating any species of Iliamna, especially Iliamna bakeri, which is another rare plant that we get out on the West Coast, the treatment for it before you sow the seed is to give it a hot water treatment. Basically, you know, just put some water on it that's not boiling but is hot, and that basically removes the germination inhibitors to help the seed sprout, which is, you know, what fire would do. So there you go. There's Iliamna remota. You can see they've got, since deer populations are out of whack around here, since all the predators have been removed and there's not that many people hunting, they've had to put this deer fencing up. But there you go. There's Iliamna remota, mallow family. Looks like mostly they're done flowering. Let's take a little closer look, eh? Oh shit, this guy terrified me. Looks exactly like poison oak, but it's not. You can see it's got a woody stem there. It's not a vine. This is a Ptelea, and it's in the citrus family Rutaceae. It's Ptelea. Looks like Ptelea. Okay, fake me out though, you know. I almost had a bit of a reaction. So there we go. There's Iliamna remota, the Kankakee Globemallow. I think there's at least 6 or 7 species in the genus Iliamna. Again, that's Malvaceae. Those brown dots you're looking at are the anthers. They're the male parts, the stamens and the anthers. And then, if you can get in there and see, there should be a stamen or a stigma in there. Yeah, there you go. See, and typical like the mallow family, it's a stigma that opens up into multiple. Or it's a style, excuse me, that opens up into multiple stigmas, which of course receive the pollen. And then those multiple stigmas, of course, translate into multiple different locules, which are just little cavities in the fruits when they mature. See, you got about 20 compartments there, about, maybe a little bit more. But each one of those corresponds, I believe, to one of these multiple stigmas, those white things in the middle right there. So, you know, and a lot of mallows have that same general floral structure. They got the stamens fused to the same column that the female part, the style and the stigmas, are a part of as well. Iliamna bakeri out west, which is a much different plant with a much different ecology. Got the same fire-dependent thing going on, but it occurs in volcanic soils generally, in areas with very dry, hot summers, and those plants will rot easily if they don't get full sun and that dry volcanic soil. Not dry, but you know, they don't receive any summer rain. Iliamna bakeri is the same floral structure as this generally, except the flowers are a little bit bigger, the petals are a little bit bigger. You know, and all Malvaceae have that same general. You know, you got 5 sepals, those green bracts, and 5 petals, those pink ones. But you know, they're not united. They're not fused. They're distinct and separate. So, and then of course you got the palmate leaves, like most mallows have. Almost looks like a maple leaf. Let's see if it's got the hairs on the back. Oh yeah, it's got those tiny stellate hairs. You know, they're there. You gotta view them with a hand lens, but it's been raining on and off all day today, you know. It's no good downpour. Oh, look at it. Look at that. Beautiful. Look at a cloud cover and a sun. Don't you think that's nice, huh? Yeah. There you go. This population's doing a little bit better. You can see they get more sun. It's more open. You know, you just got that one oak. You're getting a lot more of that afternoon sun, too, facing west. Look at the flowers here, too. This guy's huge. Look how tall this guy is. Wait, look at all that. Look at all those fruits. You know, with those like 20 individual locules holding all that seed. You know, each one of those little slats demarcates the locule and the seed, which is just like a seed compartment. It's just, you know, a part of the fruit where the seeds occur. I don't know how many seeds you get per locule. I think it's, I don't know, a lot. You can see they're just, this is probably the healthiest population, you know, and there's probably, I don't know, I'd say 200 plants here. At least, look at that. Just what a beautiful goddamn plant. And to think that it was almost lost, you know, that it was almost lost for good because of you know, a lack of fires and Lonicera maackii, that Japanese honeysuckle. So there you go. Again, this was discovered in 1872, I believe. Sometime in the early 1870s. And it's only known from this island. And, you know, I think, like I said, there's another population in Indiana. I think it's in Elkhart, Indiana, or somewhere. But no one really knows how it got there. But the question remains, why does this only occur here? Just like with any plant that's got a very limited distribution, why is it only occur here? Did it have a much wider distribution at some point? It just got restricted here because of habitat loss, or was it always just hanging on this little island where it was able to do its thing? I mean, the deer can, you could see I easily waded across the river. The deer can do that too. Obviously, they have no trouble, so it's not like it was acted as a refugia in any particular sense, you know. You know, and then of course in the 1980s, I think the population got down to about 40 plants. 40 plants left. 40 plants left of this species. And then that, of course, is when people stepped in and said, we got to do something. We got to mitigate some of these invasive species. Got to do some invasive species removal. Maybe start burning again. And they did, and it was very successful. So, I don't know. Some of the mysteries of the botanical world. Iliamna remota. Why you only occur here, huh? Luckily, you got a couple good people. Actually, a handful of good people looking out for you. You know? Oh, look at that eastern redbud, eh? Cercis, C-E-R-C-I-S, Verbesina, another wonderful legume. Real pretty flowers in the spring when they bloom too. Yeah, anyway, so here I am back over by the burn pile over there. This is a Verbesina alternifolia, and you can tell it's a Verbesina. One of the things a lot of the species in the genus Verbesina have, and it's a large genus, it goes on down into Mexico and Central America, is that they have these winged stems. See how they got these wings on there? Basically just these little bits of tissue that, little flaps that, you know, go up and down the entire length of the shoot right there. And then, of course, you have your typical Asteraceae flowers with prominent rays, the prominent ligules, the prominent daisy rays. But those capitulas are pretty odd, huh? Those flower heads. And this one, of course, is not yet, those disc florets are not yet opening. Let's look at one. How many filers does this thing have? What do the filers look like? Oh, yeah. Little spiky bracts. Anyway, Verbesina, like I said, a lot of species in that genus. You know, most of them seem to get pretty tall. Not all of them, but most of them do. And again, I just, I'm not sure if these are perennials or annuals, if they come back from a perennial rhizome or not. I'd assume they come back from a perennial rhizome because they're pretty large. You don't get a lot of annuals out here. You know, the annual habit is mostly an adaptation to dry summers, you know. Just take off, you know, in the spring when the water's there, when the moisture's there and it rains, grow real fast, flower prodigiously, produce a ton of seed, and then die. And then those seeds just lay in the soil and wait. You mostly get those when you go west of the Rockies. You get the annuals. You know, you get a couple annuals out here, but most plants are perennial. The annual, like I said, is an adaptation to the dry summers. You know, California's got a ton of annuals, as do Utah, Arizona, Nevada, on up into Idaho, etc. Anyway, so here's that Lonicera maackii, and this is a spot that they haven't burned, they haven't removed. There's no Iliamna growing here, and there certainly wouldn't be anyway, because you could just see how thick the canopy is here. And for a sun-loving plant like Iliamna remota, this just you know, completely overcasts it, makes it impossible to grow. You know, and again, this is a plant that didn't evolve here, never occurred in this ecosystem up until, I don't know, 100 years ago, less than that, probably 60, 50 years ago. And it's just sprouts from the roots. Here you can see they killed this. But, you know, and buckthorn does the same thing, European buckthorn. So, you know, not every non-native plant is you know, is a danger like this, is a threat to native plants, but some of them certainly are. But every invasive plant is a non-native plant. So, you know, a lot of people who just don't know anything yet, for some reason this threatens their reality. The whole idea of native, non-native. But you know, it's just the way it is. It's facts. You know, you gotta face the facts. I guess you could argue with them and try and claim the earth is flat, but yeah, non-native invasive plants are a real thing, and they're one of the leading causes of biodiversity loss, extinctions, and extirpations the world over. So here's another case where, you know, invasive species were completely out of control. They were out completing natives, and without human management, this species would probably have gone extinct. You know, this was in the 80s that people stepped in and took over and started doing prescribed burns, growing it. There's a nursery, Prairie Moon Nursery, which is a mail order nursery out of Minnesota, grows a bunch of these, you know, and they do great. They do great in yards. They're really easy to grow. As long as you give them sunlight, they take off. They grow fast. They're perennial. They come back every year. Wonderful plant. But it's just crazy to think that this thing, you know, could have been gone. It could have been wiped from the map because of Lonicera maackii, Japanese honeysuckle, and fire suppression, and just bad management. There you go. Look at all those hairs on that fruit right there, too. You know? So you got the sepals. And, of course, this right here is a superior ovary. Superior fruit, meaning the point of fusion of the fruit occurs right above where the sepals and the petals, the perianth, attached to the pedicel. So that's superior and inferior ovaries for you. Just means where the fruit occurs. If it occurs beneath the petals or above. You know, tomatoes, of course, are another good example of superior ovary. Regardless, God, these Japanese beetles are just... All right, later, guys. Sorry. There you go. Have fun. Does nothing eat these things? There's got to be a bird or something that just keeps these beetles in check, because they go nuts, you know? Oh, yeah. Look at those fruits. And again, each one of these fruits will contain, you know, I don't know, 60, probably, 40 to 60 tiny seeds in there. Little kidney-shaped seeds. You know, I believe they have a papillate texture. They're kind of bumpy. They're not so smooth. But, and then, of course, the seeds will just lay. You know, the seeds can last 10 years. They'll just lay in the soil, waiting for a fire to come through. And it's just called the soil seed bank. And then a fire eventually comes through. And, you know, gets rid of all the brush, creates a blank slate, an open canvas for things to start growing, and then these just take off, and boom, you get them established. But, you know, you don't have any fires, you don't get any Iliamna. And again, fire was an integral part of the prairie ecosystem, you know, and it should be again. Christ, I mean, you guys can burn stuff out here. We can't burn stuff in California because it's, you know, 6 months out of the year, it's too hot and dry. You know, you can't do it because you start one little fire, you can't control it. Here you can control it. You get cold temperatures, super cold temperatures in winter, and you get summer thunderstorms, summer rain, which we don't get in California. I wonder if that's the Japanese beetles over there. Anyway, there you go. Iliamna remota. One of my favorite plants. Needs to be grown more. You can get seedlings at Prairie Moon Nursery. I'm not sure who else. Prairie Moon. I think they start shipping in September. I just ordered some seeds from them. They sell seeds and they sell plants. But they don't ship during the summer because it's too hot. But call them up. They're real nice, you know. And they're not paying me to say this either, because I'm not a whore, you know. But I just like what they're doing, you know. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm just a free agent, you know. Loudmouth, jackass free agent. All right, there you go. Go fuck yourself. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.